君はあの日、私の走りを見て、どう思った？
In the popular game Umamusume Pretty Derby, there is a character who is very much a puzzle. A girl in an oversized lab coat, obsessed with pushing the limits of physics and biology, who affectionately refers to you, her trainer, as her guinea pig. Wait, are you serious? This is Agnes Tachyon. On the surface, she is one of the most distinct and memorable characters in a massive cast. But the question has always been, why? Why this specific name? Why a mad scientist? And why is she so hot? It turns out her entire design isn't just a creative choice, it is a biography written in code. Every stitch in her lab coat, every piece of her jewelry, every strange pattern in her eyes tells the history of a real-world horse. A horse whose career was a flash of absolute terrifying perfection before it vanished completely. This is the story of an undefeated fandom, and to understand his ghost, we first have to deconstruct the character born from it. So let's take a closer look at Agnes Tachyon herself. In the game, she is introduced with the title Princess of Superluminal Speed, and on the surface, her design is pretty straightforward. You see the lab coat, the vials of glowing liquid, the slightly unhinged expression, and you get it immediately. She is the mad scientist. It is a clean, effective archetype, but with this character, the surface level is just an invitation. And when you start looking closer, you realize that almost nothing in her design is there by accident. It is less of a character design and more of a historical document. Let's start with the most obvious detail, her sleeves. You see these blue vials held on by red straps? It is a distinct color pattern. Well, here are the jockey silks, worn by Hiroshi Kawachi, the man who rode the real Agnes Tachyon in all 4 of his races. Red body, blue striped sleeves is a 1-to-1 match, a direct faithful recreation. So that is a nice nod, but the creators went deeper, a lot deeper. Let's take a look at the zipper pulls on her lab coats. They are shaped like diamonds, 4 sides of a diamond. The real Agnes Tachyon had a perfect, undefeated career of 4 wins and 0 losses. 4-4-4. A coincidence? I think not. In Umamusume, there is no coincidences. Even her earrings tell a story. They are a small nod to her mother, or her dam in horse racing terms, a horse named Agnes Flora. The earrings are made of a connected hexagon and a pentagon, 6 sides and 5 sides. Her mother, Agnes Flora, ran 6 races in her career and won 5 of them. It is an obsession with detail that borders on the absurd. And then we get to the physics theme. Her name, Tachyon, comes from a hypothetical particle that travels faster than light. To enforce this, her unique skill in the game is cheekily named U = ma², a not so subtle parody of Einstein's EmC². But the most interesting part is hidden in her eyes. That unusual stripe pattern in her pupils, that is a visual reference to the double slit experiment. You don't need to be a physicist, but it is a famous experiment in quantum mechanics that basically deals with the fundamental weirdness of how light and matter behave at the smallest, most unpredictable level. It is a perfect theme for a character obsessed with pushing past the known limits of reality. And finally, all of this lore, the history, the physics, translates directly in how she actually plays. Her most powerful skill in the game gives her a massive boost of stamina right when she needs it most. It is a direct mechanical solution to the physical fragility that defines her entire story. This level of obsessive detail isn't just for show, it is all in service of telling a very specific and very real tragedy. And to understand that tragedy, we need to talk about the horse himself. Before he ever set foot on track, the expectations for Agnes Tachyon were enormous. He was, for the lack of better term, thoroughbred royalty. His father, his sire, was the legendary Sunday Silence, an American champion brought to Japan who completely revolutionized the sport, injecting a kind of ferocious, competitive fire into the nation's bloodlines. His mother's side was a dynasty. His dam, Agnes Flora, was a classic winner. His granddam, Agnes Lady, was also a classic winner. And just make sure the pressure was high enough, his full brother, a horse named Agnes Tachyon, had won the Japanese Derby, the single most important race in the country, just the year before Tachyon was set to debut. So, you know, no pressure. Tachyon wasn't just another horse, he was the heir to the throne, the living embodiment of a perfect genetic cross. And then he started running. His career is known by the nickname the Phantom of the Turf because it was brief, violent storm of dominance that was over almost as soon as it began. In just over 4 months, he earned 222 million yen. At the time, about $2 million US. It happened in 4 acts. The Act 1 is his debut. Despite his royal bloodline, reports from training were lackluster, so he wasn't even the betting favorite. He was sent off at nearly 6-1 odds. He won by 3.5 lengths, a crushing margin that made the odds look foolish. Yo, if I could turn back time and tell my parents to bet on Tachyon, dude, I would be rich. But anyways, Act 2, the Radio Tampa High Stakes. This time, he was up against 2 colts who would go on to become legends in their own right, Jungle Pocket and Kurofune. Tachyon treated them like they weren't there. He didn't just win, he shattered the course record. It was after this race that his jockey, Hiroshi Kawachi, delivered the famous quote, "I am convinced this horse is off a different dimension." And then Act 3, the Yayoi Show. The conditions were terrible, a heavy rain-soaked track that should have dulled his explosive speed. Instead, he proved what his trainer called his incredible versatility. He splashed away from the field and won by 5 lengths. The best jockey in the country, Yutaka Take, was on the 2nd place horse that day. His assessment was simple: Tachyon was just too strong. And then Act 4, the Satsuki Show, the first leg of the Japanese Triple Crown. And by now, the secret was out. He was the overwhelming favorite. He won, cementing his status as the undisputed king of his generation. The path to immortality seemed clear, and Agnes Tachyon was set to find out what happens when he reaches top speed. But then, it ended. Just 17 days after that career-defining victory, the news broke. Agnes Tachyon had developed acute flexor tendonitis, severe inflammation of a critical leg tendon in his left foreleg. In other words, his career was over. And this is where the fiction creates a powerful direct link to reality. In the Umamusume movie, there is a key scene where Tachyon crosses the finish line, and as she does, the animation shows a visual of her left leg shattering like glass. It is not just a cool visual effect, it is a direct, heartbreaking artistic interpretation of the specific real-world injury that ended his career. And in retrospect, the injury wasn't a random accident. The warning signs were there. In the weeks before his final race, his behavior got worse. He reportedly started resisting his training routine, refusing to get on the horse van, and being difficult at the starting gate. This wasn't just a horse being difficult, it was likely an intelligent animal sensing the immense strain on his own body. Even his jockey quietly noted that in that final victory, Tachyon's signature finishing kick wasn't quite as explosive as it should have been. It is possible he was already, consciously or not, trying to protect himself. It all feeds into the theory that his body was a double-edged sword. He had an exceptional, revolutionary engine, but the body that had to support all that power was still developing and simply couldn't handle the stress. His own gift was unsustainable, and that is the core of the adaptation. The entire motivation of the fictional Agnes Tachyon is born from this tragedy. She seems to be acutely aware of this predetermined fate, and her frantic, obsessive research is a direct rebellion against it, a fight to overcome the weaknesses of the flesh. There is a crucial nuance to her character too. She considers the possibility that if her experiments fail to save herself, the data she gathers might still be used to help other horse girls reach the potential that she couldn't. It is a poignant echo of that anime scene, where after her leg quote-unquote shatters, she looks back at her rivals and seems to think maybe they will be the ones to reach it. This transformation of a passive tragedy into an active motivation is the philosophical core of her character, and it doesn't just define her, it shapes every interaction she has with the world around her. Her relationships in the game aren't random pairings chosen for good chemistry, they are a carefully constructed social experiment, with every friendship and rivalry rooted in the hard data of racing history. It is another layer of the game's deep respect for the source material. Take, for example, her closest friend, Manhattan Cafe. Their dynamic is famously themed as science versus the supernatural. Tachyon is the loud, eccentric scientist who believes only in empirical data that she can test and measure. Cafe is a quiet, mysterious girl who speaks to an unseen friend, operating on intuition and forces beyond our understanding. But this opposites attract friendship isn't just a writer's invention, it is grounded in reality. In the real world, both Agnes Tachyon and Manhattan Cafe were sons of the same legendary father, the sire Sunday Silence. They were from the exact same generation of horses and were two of the biggest rivals on the track. The game takes that shared history and rivalry and imagines it as this strange, compelling friendship between the two opposing worldviews. And then there's her relationship with Daiwa Scarlet, which is different. With almost everyone else, Tachyon is callous, manipulative, and sees them as potential test subjects. But with Scarlet, she is uncharacteristically gentle. She is protective. In the story, Scarlet is one of the few who eagerly volunteers for Tachyon's experiments, and Tachyon responds not by using her for dangerous tests, but by giving her only the beneficial side products of her research, potions that are proven to be safe and helpful. And there is a very specific and very poignant reason for this. In the real world, Agnes Tachyon was Daiwa Scarlet's sire, her father!
No, I am the father. Say what?
The game takes that simple, genetic fact and translates it into this incredibly touching, almost parental bond. The obsessive scientist who is willing to risk her own body for her research instinctively protects the one person who represents her own bloodline. It is a brilliant piece of character writing. Of course, not all relationships are that complex. Her dynamic with Jungle Pocket is much more straightforward. It is one of pure, intense rivalry. In 2001, Agnes Tachyon and Jungle Pocket were the undisputed top two cults of their year. Their story in the game is a direct reflection of that battle for supremacy. It is not about friendship or family, it is about two elite athletes pushing each other to their limits. And finally, there is the player, Yu. Tachyon's relationship with Yu, the trainer, is unique. From the moment you meet, she doesn't see you as a coach or a partner, she sees you as the perfect new test subject. She immediately dubs you as her guinea pig, or in Japanese, your official role as the player is to be her primary research material. Congratulations! That should have been me! So the game builds this intricate network of relationship around her, all drawn from the pages of racing history. But the most sophisticated use of her story comes when she is positioned not as a friend or a mentor, but as an insurmountable obstacle. This happens in the 2024 feature film, Beginning of a New Era. In the game, we experience Tachyon's story from the inside. We are her trainer, her guinea pig, we are fighting alongside her against her own physical fragility. But in the film, her story is secondary. The protagonist is her great rival, Jungle Pocket. And from Pocket's perspective, Agnes Tachyon is the antagonist. And the movie does something brilliant. It takes the real-world tragedy of her career-ending injury and mostly ignores it. In the film's version of events, her retirement isn't an accident. It is a conscious choice. She runs her 4 perfect races not to win titles, but to achieve a personal scientific goal, to push her body to its absolute theoretical limits and gather the data. And once she does that, she just stops. She essentially reaches her personal finish line, says data collection complete, and hangs up her lab coat. This choice has a devastating effect on the film's actual protagonist, Jungle Pocket. Poki's goal is simple, to become the strongest by defeating all her rivals. But Tachyon's retirement makes that impossible. How can you prove you're the best when the one person who was clearly demonstrably better simply vanishes undefeated? Tachyon becomes a specter of perfection, a ghost that haunts the rest of the film. Every victory Jungle Pocket has is hollow because she knows she never beat the one rival that mattered. Tachyon's victory is so absolute that it makes Pocket's own victory impossible by her own definition. And this is Tachyon's true function in the movie. She isn't a villain to be overcome in the final showdown. Her own story arc is complete in the first act. Her job in the story is to be a catalyst, a force of nature that shatters the protagonist's simple worldview and forces her to mature. Poki has to move beyond wanting to defeat Tachyon and find a new, more meaningful reason to run. This complex portrayal is part of why she has become such a popular and enduring character in the franchise, appearing not just in these serious roles, but also as a reoccurring figure in the official gag manga series like the Umayon and in constant promotional art. This ability to be a protagonist, an antagonist, and a tragic figure and a gag character all at once brings us to the core of her powerful and enduring legacy. The story of the real Agnes Tachyon is, at its heart, a question. It is a story about what if. As one report eloquently puts it, his career was a preface to the book that was never written. 4 perfect chapters that promise a legendary epic, followed by silence. The fictional character of Agnes Tachyon is the answer to all that question. The real horse was a passive victim of his own biology. The character is an active protagonist fighting against it. Where history left a void, fiction provided agency. And that synthesis has created this unique cultural singularity, where the horse and the character are now inseparable. He exists simultaneously in 3 distinct but deeply intertwined forms. First, he is and always will be a historical legend, the undefeated phantom of the turf, frozen in time at the absolute peak of his power. Second, he became a genetic powerhouse. This was his second triumphant career. Denied the chance to prove his greatness on the track, he proved it as a father. He became a leading sire, meaning one of the top breeding stallions in the country, and fulfilled his genetic promise through his children. Champion offspring like Daiwa Scarlet, Derby winner Deep Sky, and another Satsuki show winner in Captain Tool. In a final tragic echo of his racing career, his time as a sire was also cut short when he died suddenly of heart failure at just 11 years old. But the proof was there. The genius was real. And third, he is now a fictional icon, one of the most complex, popular, and instantly recognizable characters in the entire Umamusume franchise. These 3 legacies now feed each other. The popularity of the character sends countless new fans down the rabbit hole of racing history to learn about the phantom horse who inspired her, and a deeper understanding of that horse's tragic, brilliant career gives the fictional character a profound sense of weight and purpose. Ultimately, the story of Agnes Tachyon has become a rare and powerful example of how fiction can engage with history, not just to retell it, but to explore its lingering questions and, in a way, to provide a sense of emotional closure to a story that reality left unfinished. It is a reminder that sometimes the most enduring stories aren't about what happened, but about what could have been. And that is all about Agnes Tachyon. If you liked the video, leave a like, don't forget to subscribe. But that is all from me, 𝗖់_𝗆𝗆𝗵𝘁, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!